Tonight, as you lie down, let your thoughts drift to a story of strength, struggle, and triumph. Not of kings or warriors from myths, but of a real man, born in the heart of Brazil, whose life unfolded like a legend. This is the story of Charles do Bronx Oliveira. So breathe in slowly, let your body rest, and allow this journey to carry you gently into sleep. Charles Oliveira was born on October 17, 1989, in Guarujá, a coastal town in the state of São Paulo, Brazil. The town was known for its beaches, but not for wealth. Charles grew up in a favela, where streets were made of dirt, homes were made of concrete and corrugated metal, and the sound of traffic mixed with shouting voices and playing children. His family was poor, not just in wealth, but in access. Charles grew up with limited access to healthcare, food security, or educational opportunity. His parents did what they could, but the days were hard. His mother worked as a housekeeper, and his father had inconsistent jobs. When Charles was still a small child, doctors gave his mother crushing news. He had rheumatic fever and a heart murmur. Later, he was also diagnosed with a severe bone condition in his legs. Doctors feared he might become paralyzed or never walk properly. As if that weren't enough, he also had significant vision problems that would follow him into adulthood. Other children might have resigned themselves. But Charles did not. He defied the prognosis. He adapted. He learned to walk, then to run, then to play soccer with the neighborhood kids. His legs carried him further than anyone expected. The adversity didn't break him, it forged him. At night, while the favela settled into a restless sleep, Charles dreamed. Not of wealth, not even of championships, but of becoming someone his family could be proud of. Someone who could break the cycle. At the age of 12, Charles's life shifted forever. He was introduced to Brazilian jiu-jitsu at a small local gym by a neighbor named Paulo. The gym didn't have mats. The roof leaked. Uniforms were passed down from student to student, worn and tattered. But to Charles, it was a palace. He trained barefoot. His first GI didn't fit. Often, he went without one. But he trained anyway. His first instructor, Roger Qualo, saw something unusual in him. Despite the physical limitations, despite the blurry eyesight, Charles had an intuitive feel for grappling. He moved with creativity and urgency. He wasn't the strongest or fastest, but he was the most relentless. Charles began entering tournaments, first local, then regional. Even when he didn't have money for transportation, neighbors pitched in to get him to the events. He started winning, not just matches, but admiration. By age 14, Charles had already earned multiple regional titles. By 15, he was a blue belt known for his unorthodox and attacking style. He was tall for his age, wiry, and aggressive on the mat. His favorite techniques were triangles, arm bars, and rear naked chokes, all of which would later become his signature finishes in MMA. Even then, he carried himself with humility. After every tournament, he returned to Guarujá, helped his mother, and walked the same rough streets where his journey had begun. But in his heart, he now believed something different. He could be the best in the world. As he entered his late teens, Charles transitioned from BJJ competitions into professional MMA. He competed first in regional circuits like Circuito de Lutas and Predator FC. These weren't televised events. They were held in warehouses, gyms, even parking lots. The pay was low, sometimes non-existent, but the experience was priceless. Charles's early MMA career was a whirlwind. He debuted professionally in 2008. In his first year, he fought and won 6 times, 5 by submission, 1 by TKO. He quickly became known for his aggressive grappling, fast finishes, and a refusal to stall. Then came Jungle Fight, Brazil's most prestigious MMA promotion. In 2009, he won a one-night, 3-fight lightweight Grand Prix tournament. He defeated 3 tough opponents back-to-back, all in the same evening, showcasing his endurance, composure, and submission artistry. That performance caught the attention of UFC scouts. Despite being only 20 years old, he had an undefeated record, a fearless attitude, and a style tailor-made for excitement. His phone rang. It was the UFC. On August 1st, 2010, Charles Oliveira stepped into the UFC octagon for the very first time at UFC Live, Jones vs. Matyushenko. His opponent, Darren Elkins, a tough and gritty American wrestler. Many doubted the young Brazilian. He was unproven. He had never fought outside Brazil. He barely spoke English. But Charles didn't care. Once the bell rang, he attacked. 41 seconds later, Elkins tapped out to an armbar. The UFC world took notice. A new submission specialist had arrived. 3 weeks later, Charles returned against TUF alum Efren Escudero. Again, he dominated, this time with a third-round rear-naked choke. But the honeymoon didn't last. In the fights that followed, Charles experienced tough losses to veterans like Jim Miller, Donald Cerrone, and Frankie Edgar. He was criticized for his weight cuts, his inconsistency, and lack of finishing power against top-tier opponents. Still, he remained humble. He never blamed judges, coaches, or referees. Instead, he went back to the gym and worked harder. That humility became his hallmark. For years, Charles fought in 2 weight classes, featherweight and lightweight, unable to find stability. His frame was tall and lean, but the extreme weight cuts to 145 pounds weakened him. He missed weight multiple times and was heavily criticized by media and fans. But he never stopped evolving. Under the guidance of coaches like Diego Lima and the Shoot Box team, he improved his boxing, learned to manage his conditioning, and developed better mental toughness. In 2017, he returned fully to lightweight. The results were immediate. Submissions came faster. His body looked healthier, and the finishes kept piling up. He submitted Will Brooks, Clay Guida, Christos Jagos, Jim Miller, a rematch, and David Teemer. Each time, he looked more confident. The UFC began to realize Charles wasn't just a gatekeeper. He was a contender in the making. In 2020, Charles faced former interim champion Tony Ferguson. It was a critical moment, a test against a battle-hardened warrior. Charles dominated all 3 rounds. He took Ferguson down at will, passed guard, and nearly broke his arm with a tight armbar. Tony refused to tap, but everyone watching knew Charles Oliveira was a different beast now. He followed up by fighting Michael Chandler for the vacant lightweight title at UFC 262. After surviving a brutal first round, Charles came out in round 2 with laser focus. He landed a crisp left hook that dropped Chandler and finished the fight with ground and pound. He was now the undisputed UFC lightweight champion. He defended the title against Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, submitting both men in dramatic fashion. By this point, Charles held the UFC record for most finishes and most submissions in history. His fighting style was poetic, forward pressure, wild exchanges, and clinical jiu-jitsu. But it was his resilience that stood out most. He had walked through fire and come out golden. In June 2025, Charles accepted a fight against rising star Ilia Topuria. The young fighter was undefeated, explosive, and hungry for legacy. The build-up was respectful. Charles promised to use movement, kicks, and distance. But on fight night, something was off. He looked flat-footed, cautious. At just 2 minutes and 27 seconds into the first round, Topuria landed a clean right hand. Charles collapsed. It was his first true knockout loss. The crowd went silent. In the post-fight interview, Charles spoke calmly. He was better tonight. I couldn't do what I trained for, but I'll be back. No excuses, no bitterness. He promised he would fight again before the end of the year, that the fire inside him was still burning. Charles Oliveira's legacy isn't just about numbers, though his numbers are staggering. Most submissions in UFC history, most finishes in UFC history, former UFC lightweight champion, more performance bonuses than any other fighter, but the numbers don't tell the full story. This was a boy who couldn't walk, who could barely see, who grew up in a favela surrounded by crime and struggle. And he became a world champion. He did it with humility, with faith, with courage, with joy. Today, he is a symbol for millions in Brazil and around the world of what's possible when you refuse to quit. His nickname, Du Bronx, reminds us where he came from. But Charles Oliveira has gone far beyond those narrow streets. He's entered the hearts of fans forever. And now, as your breathing slows, let the story of Charles Oliveira rest with you. A story not just of a fighter, but of a man, a boy who defied his fate and built a legacy from fire. Good night, and may your dreams be strong, quiet, and full of hope.